Hello everyone, welcome to the Freeman podcast. It's a great pleasure to have you all on this podcast series. So today we're going to be going over a very amazing topic, which is belief, right? So in this particular episode, you're going to be learning what it means to believe, how beliefs are formed, then how to change your beliefs, and then the benefits of consciously programming your own beliefs. But before we get started, let's roll the intro. So you just need to adhering to the same principles called faith, like I mentioned earlier. How can you solve this? What are your failures?
Traders, welcome to Profitable Trader Series. So on this episode, welcome to the Profitable Trader Series. So on this
Alright, so let's get started. So we are unlimited beings, and by being unlimited beings, this simply means that we can be, do, or have anything. But then first of all, we have to believe. So before I start explaining what it means to believe, I would like to share this amazing story that I remembered. And this story dates back to 13,500 years ago, to be not to be precise, but like I'm approximating. So this story is actually an experience that I had. So back then, 13,500 years ago, in ancient Egypt, but then Egypt was still a colony of Atlantis. So it wasn't like it wasn't called Egypt, but then I'll recall the name very soon, maybe in another episode. But then for now, I can't remember the name of the colony, but then it was exactly the same location where we have Egypt right now. So back then, we had a deeper understanding about spirituality and the laws of the universe and everything. So when we have an offspring, right? When we have an offspring, then the offspring isn't put through school system as we have right now. So back then we didn't have a school system. So what we had was a form of education that enlightens the child, that opens the child up to the possibilities that lies within them, right? So it's like introducing the child to who they really are, right? Helping the child to remember at a very, very young age. So, and among the things that we taught the children was the way of living that will help you to create anything that you want. And then that way of living is what we now call belief, right? But then the way of living that we used to teach back then, and I can remember this because I was one of the elders back then that was in charge of teaching the young ones. So we just had like elders, and then we had like scribes, where our duty was to bring up the younger generation in the way of our people, and then which is the spiritual way. And what it actually meant to believe was simply to be and to live. So believe came from two words, which is to be and to live. And then we didn't speak English, so I'm simply translating what I remember into English language. So the word belief comes from two words, which is to be and to live, right? So in order to have an experience, you must first be something, and you must first live something right now. So for example, this experience of this podcast that you're having right now, you are being in this moment right now. And that's why you are able to listen to this podcast. And then the process of listening to this podcast is actually living. So you're being and you're living in this podcast right now, right? So by teaching our kids how to be and how to live, right, then we are giving them the tools that they needed to create the life that they wanted consciously, right? So we are equipping them with the tools towards creating the life that they wanted. Now, this story is very, very important because our present school system is exactly the opposite, right? So our school system is designed to teach our kids concepts, right, as opposed to teaching our kids how to be and how to live. And what this results to is simply it creates a generation of people who are disconnected from their beingness, right? Who are disconnected from the aspect of being within them, knowing how to be and knowing how to live any experience that you want, right? So the reason why I share this story is to give you guys a kind of a preview of where the information that I'm about to share in this podcast came from. So I can't remember everything in details, right? I can only remember the valuable points because if I could remember every single thing that I experienced back then as an elder, then I wouldn't be able to enjoy this experience, right? This particular experience right now in this particular lifetime. So now that I've shared the story, let's head straight to the first aspect of this podcast, which is what does it actually mean to believe, right? So what it means to believe is, just like I said earlier, believing comes from two words, which is to be and to live, right? So it is not a concept, it is an isness, right? It is what you're being right now. It is what you're being right now. So when I decided to become a profitable investor in this particular lifetime, I didn't start to worry about how it was going to be possible. I didn't worry about whether I could do it or not, whether I could become a profitable investor or not. That wasn't on my mind. So all I knew was simply that all I had to do was to be profitable right now, right, and then live from that. And it's how it actually happened was that I remember that if I kept on saying, I want to become profitable, then I am shifting into the future. Like it becomes a future event, and we understand that the future doesn't really exist, right? It doesn't exist. It's what we do now that determines the future, right? So if I kept on saying, I want to become a profitable investor, then I am pushing the experience away. I'm not living the experience right now. But then when I became profitable right now, right, even though physically I wasn't yet profitable, but mentally, I asked myself, so what will it look like now that I am profitable, right? So I simply closed my eyes and I asked myself this question: what would it feel like now that I am profitable? What kind of picture will I see right now? And I saw myself how I would be if I was profitable, how my equity will be growing, how I will be impacting the lives of other people, how I will be teaching people. What I really absorbed was the feeling, the emotion of teaching people how to become profitable. I saw people telling me, thank you so much for all you've taught me. I am a better person for learning this. I felt the emotion of fulfillment, right? I was fulfilled in that moment that I was already profitable. And what this did was, it created, okay, let me give you guys a breakdown of how this actually works. So when you create a mental picture in your mind, right, what's actually happening is your neurons are actually transmitting those electrical impulses into images, right? So the image that you're seeing in your mind isn't actually taking place in your mind. Instead, your neurons are downloading the image from an existence where it has already happened. Now, hear me out on this. When you are imagining something, when you're creating a mental picture, that imagination isn't happening in your brain. Instead, the neurons in the brain are simply receiving the information from that reality that you're tapping into by imagining, right? So the mere act of imagining, you are seeing a reality that is already, right? And then how do you connect with that reality? How do you make that reality your reality? Then how you make that reality your reality is by feeling the emotions of that reality, right? Feeling the emotions of that reality, feeling what it actually meant, what it actually means to have that particular thing, right? And when you feel the emotion, what happens is your brain sends a signal throughout your body in form of a chemical that you feel as an emotion. And when the body feels an emotion, the body believes that it is having the experience right now, because guess what? The body is being that emotion, and the body is living the experience of that emotion right now. So the elevated feelings that comes from you actually seeing that picture, right, actually flows through your body and you feel it, and that is what connects you to that reality. And that is how you bring that reality into your present reality, right? So that was how I believed that I was going to become profitable, right? How I believed was simply seeing the picture in my imagination, right? And then being that by feeling the emotions right now, getting into the scene, into the act that I've already done in my mind. So that is how we can be able to, believe, right? So beliefs are formed through repetition, right? So if you want to believe something, that belief has to be formed through repetition. So let me give you guys an example of how this also played out in my journey towards becoming a profitable investor. So along the journey, when you open your eyes, you're back at this present reality. So you actually have to bring that emotion that you have felt into this reality. So even though you're not seeing the results that you want, right, but then you feel as though those results have already happened, because you always remind yourself of the picture that you have in your mind. So anytime that you feel doubt, remind yourself, oh, I've seen this picture and it is true. Anytime you feel doubt, remind yourself, I've seen this picture and it's true. So anytime I felt like, giving up, I felt like, investing is not for me, right? What I actually did was I simply kept quiet, and then I reminded myself that it is done. I have seen it, it is done. And for the fact that I can see it and I have already felt it, means that it is done. And that is belief, right? That is believing, being and living that experience. So that way, looking at where I am right now, I can only look back and connect the dots, right? So I can actually look back and see how every single event lined up towards me becoming a profitable investor, right? But then at that moment, I never knew how it was going to happen. All I knew was that it was already done, right? It was done already. So when you repeat that idea over and over again, when you remind yourself, so to remind yourself means to replay that thing that you have already done in your mind, to remind, right? Because that thing that you've done, you did it in the mind. So to remind yourself of that thing means to replay that thing. So when I felt doubt, I simply reminded myself of that mental picture, and then that was how I was able to stay on course, right? So the next part of this podcast is to understand how we can change our beliefs, right? So if you have a belief that is not serving you, right, how can you change that belief? Well, the same way beliefs are formed through repetition, right? That is the same way you can change beliefs through repetition. But then it is actually easier to change a belief, right? It is easier to change an existing belief than it is to create a whole new belief already, right? Because you already have a picture, you already have a contrast in place, right? So let's say you have a belief that makes you scared of dogs, right? So you believe that dogs are harmful and then dogs will always bite you. But then meanwhile, in truth, not all dogs will bite you, right? Some dogs won't bite you. So from my own experience, when I was 13 years old, I got chased by a dog, and that experience created a mental image because I was being and I was living in the moment when the dog chased me, right? So that picture got stuck in my mind, and then anytime I came to someone's house and that person has a dog, what happened was that I simply reminded myself of that experience of a dog chasing me. And then once I remind myself of that experience, then those neurons will fire together and it sends an electrical impulse through the body and also a chemical impulse as well through the body, which we feel as an emotion. And then you feel as though this dog you're seeing right now is already attacking you, right? And then you run away, right? So how did I change my beliefs about dogs? Well, I simply had to create a new mental picture about dogs. And how I created this picture was imagining myself owning a dog. It's actually a wolf dog, a dog that looks like a wolf. That's my favorite species. So I imagine myself owning a dog. I imagine myself petting the dog. And I say to myself, if this dog right now can't bite me, it means that not every dog can bite me, right? So by doing that, I am feeding my mind a different narrative, right? So then when I come to someone's house and they have a dog, right? Instead of running away without the dog attacking me, first of all, I observe, I see how the dog acts. Has it bitten anybody yet today, right? Has it bitten the person that I came with? And then I remind myself, oh, not all dogs will bite me, not all dogs will bite me. And then eventually, that particular dog wouldn't end up biting me. And then that experience would now go back into your mind, and then it will get stored as an image, as an imprint, as an impression in your mind. So the next time you see a dog, you remember that the last time the dog didn't bite you or chase you, so it is less likely to happen now. And then that way you can change your belief about being scared of dogs. That was how I changed my own belief about being scared of dogs. So how we can change our belief, right, is simply using our imagination, right? So when we go within, when we quiet our mind and then we go within, then we can simply tap into that particular field of events that we want to live, right? So when we tap into that field of event, we create that mental picture, and then once we create that mental picture, we feel the emotions of that picture. And then once we feel the emotions of that mental picture, then that's all we have to do. Because once you have felt the emotion, it is done, right? It is done. The end point of every experience is how you felt, right? How did the experience make you feel, right? So now that you've gotten to the point where you have already created the picture and you felt it, then all you simply need to do is to remind yourself of that picture over and over and over again. Anytime that you feel doubt, remind yourself of that picture that you have already built. So there's a technique that I used to teach thousands of years ago, back then in ancient Egypt and in within the scribes, right? There's this technique that we used, which was a technique that slowed our brain wave down, and it also slowed our heart rate down to a point where the brain and the heart became coherent. So when the brain and the heart becomes coherent, then they start beating, the heart starts beating coherently and the brain wave is coherent, and information flows from the brain to the heart and the heart to the brain, right? So how we actually created this coherence was through our breath, right? So there's a breathing technique that we practice, and that's what I'm about to share with you right now. So the breathing technique is called 5-second 4 cycles, right? So it's a technique that will make you to breathe just 3 times in a minute, right? We'll breathe only 3 times in a minute. So once you do the breathing for 5 minutes, then you calm your body down, and then your heart becomes coherent and your brain wave becomes coherent at the same time, and you go into a theta brain wave. And then at this state, that is where your body is receptive to information. That is where your body is waiting for you to tell it what next, to program the software, right? So now you can now start creating the image that you want. So let's practice this breathing technique so that you can also practice it in your daily life experience. So here's how it works. We breathe in and we count 5. So you breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you hold the breath. You count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you breathe out, counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you hold that out breath and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 before you take another breath in. So every single breathing cycle lasts for 20 seconds, and there are 60 seconds in a minute. So you just have 3 breathing cycles in a minute. So here's how it works. So let's get quiet. If you're not driving, you can practice this, but then if you're doing something, you can simply practice this another time during your day. So let's take a deep breath in. So let's get started. So I'm going to be using my hand to count the various cycles as I'm doing it. I'm going to only do it for 1 minute. So let's breathe in. So what I just did right now was just 1 cycle, right? So now by doing this cycle, then the next thing, because of time, I won't do the entire cycle, but then you can just do this cycle for as long as you want. At least do it for at least 5 minutes, and then you will be amazing at how much clarity you will have. So now that we've done the breathing cycle, then the next thing that we have to do is to bring in the image that we want to be and live in. So let's say you want to get a new house, right? Let's use the image of a new house as well. So imagine what that house will look like. What is the color of the house? Is it white? So in my own case, I'm imagining a white house. Then where are you right now that you're seeing the house? Are you seeing the house from outside or from inside? So in this case, I can see the house from inside. And I can see the walls are white and the windows are golden and the edge of the chairs are golden. In fact, I'm sitting on one of the chairs right now in my imagination, and I can feel how soft the chair is. I can feel how relaxing it is. And I look up and I feel the air condition blowing and the cold and how it feels to be relaxed inside this house. And I can feel the presence of someone around me. Oh, it's my friend, and what is he doing? He's simply playing video games in the parlor, and I'm relaxing on the chair, enjoying the video games. And then in this moment that you have captured the picture of the house, then you simply tell yourself, it is done. I love you, it is done. I love you, it is done. And then feel the emotions. Oh, it's so relaxing, it's so amazing to be in this wonderful house. Oh, it is so refreshing. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. Thank you for this beautiful house. Thank you. And then you come out, right? Now, what have we done? We just created a mental impression, right? And then we felt the image, right? We felt the emotions of that image. Now, by feeling the emotions of the image, what does that mean? Now, by feeling the emotions of that image, it means that it has already happened. Now, I can't doubt that, my mansion is here already, because anytime I feel like doubting the reality of the house I just saw, I simply close my eyes and remind myself again, how does it feel to be relaxing in this parlor? How does it feel to have this breeze blow on me? How does it feel to be playing this video game with my friend? How does it feel to be in such a relaxed and quiet environment? And remind yourself that it is done again, as many times as the doubt comes up. And once you do that, you have already believed that you have a new house. All right, so this is how we can consciously program our belief system. And remember that, like, this physical body is our vehicle, right? And the program that this physical body will run on is our belief system, because our belief system is the operating system for this vehicle. So any image that you have been and you have lived, that is what this body will experience, right? So let's say you want to get a new car. Then how do you believe that you already have that new car? Well, the way you can believe that you have that new car is by, again, practicing this breathing technique, right? Do it for at least 5 minutes. When you do it for 5 minutes, you slow your heart rate down, and then your brain wave also becomes coherent. And then when your brain and heart becomes coherent, now, your heart is emitting information into the field, right? So when you create an image in your mind in that state, and then you feel the emotions of that image that you've created, what happens is your heart sends that information out into the field of infinite possibilities, and anything that has to happen for that image that you have seen in your mind to manifest will actually start to come to you. You don't need to do anything to get to that image. The image comes to you. That is how the law of attraction works, right? You attract to you. You don't go to it. It comes to you when you be it. So what you're being, anything that resonates with what you're being will come to you. So in the case of a new car, then you have to get your mind quiet, get into this brainwave state. Then once you're in this brainwave state, then you can now start to imagine the picture of the car. What kind of car is it? Is it an S-Class? Is it a Porsche? Is it a Porsche Taycan? Is it a Lamborghini? What kind of car is it? Then once you get the kind of car that you have, that you want to have, right? Then what is the color of the car? Then if it's white outside, cool. Then what is the color of the interior? Red interior, black interior, gray interior, cool. Then how do you drive this car? Do you drive it with the glasses up, or do you like to wind your glass down? Are the glasses tinted, or are the glasses transparent, right? The windshield, is it transparent or is it tinted? And then you get all this information about the car that you want, and you build the image of the car. And now that you have the image of that car, then you move into that car in your mind. You sit down in the front seat of the car, you feel the steering wheel of the car, and in that moment you say, oh, I'm grateful for this beautiful car. And then you feel the gear lever of the car, and then in that moment you say to yourself, I love you, I am grateful for this, thank you. I'm grateful for this, I love you. And you're saying I love you to the car, you're grateful for the car, and you're thankful for having that experience right now. And once you do that, then it is done, and then you come out, right? If you don't want to come out, you can still enjoy the car in your imagination, drive around in the car in your imagination. Where would you go with the car? Are you driving with your friends? Are you driving with your family? What are you doing with the car right now in your mind? And then you do it, right? And then the reason why I give this example of a car was that was how I was able to manifest a car as a 19-year-old. I bought the car that I've always imagined at the age of 19. And you know, it's like I didn't worry for a day how the car will come into my experience, right? I just knew that it was already done because I was fulfilled with the mental image that I had, right? So this way you can change your belief about anything, right? What do you want to be, do, or have? Get the image of what you want to be, do, or have in your mind. Feel the emotions in your heart, and then your heart will broadcast into the field the information into the field. So the information goes from here to here, and it gets broadcast into the field. And then from that moment, you start to attract to you what will help you get towards that image, towards that end that you have in your mind, right? So the last section of this podcast is, what are the benefits of consciously creating your belief system? So I don't think this part is actually necessary, because I believe you know the benefits of consciously programming your beliefs, right? So, but then the benefits is simply that you will become free, right? You actually have freedom. Why? Because you know that you can be, do, or have anything, as long as you can get quiet, be it, feel it, and love it. Be grateful and fulfilled in that moment. Be grateful and fulfilled in that moment. Don't want any other thing in that moment. Just be grateful and fulfilled that, yes, I am with it. It is done. Be present with it in your imagination. And then that presence will get broadcast into the field. And then from then on, law of attraction handles the rest. So don't we live in an amazing universe? So, like, you know, when we start to understand the laws of the universe, right, then we can now start to harmoniously co-create with these laws, right? So thank you so much for taking your time to watch this video. If you have any question, just ask the question in the comment section, and I'll make a video answering the question. And if you'd like to practice anything that I just explained in this video, feel free to practice it. If you have any question about the practices, chat me up on Instagram. My Instagram link is in the description below, and then I will feel like I will be so grateful to guide you through practicing these techniques. So thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. I'm so grateful. Remember to subscribe and turn your post notifications on so you get notification about the next video. So thank you so much. Namaste. Have an absolutely abundant experience on this planet.